Context of White Supremacy. Today's date, Sunday, January 27th, 2013. So I have been told. Justice Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully, to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Just to make sure there's no confusion, I said this yesterday, but in case folks weren't listening to the broadcast, the program with Dr. Niyana Rasayan, he was supposed to be with us this past Sunday, but again, I suspect we had some sort of racist interference with our communication and resulted in him missing many of the emails that I sent to him, so we rescheduled. We were going to look at today, but we ended up compromising. It'll be a week from today, so-called Super Bowl Sunday. We'll be simulcasting with the game. So you can choose how you are going to spend your time and energy next weekend. You can be watching white people's ball games, or you can tune in, hopefully get some constructive information. Dr. Niyana Rasayan making his 5th visit to the context of white supremacy. But that is for next Sunday. Our broadcast for today. The sound clip, I was just, because I was on early, and I was playing the sound clip where they were discussing racism, white supremacy during the 1960s. Victim of racism, Mr. Medgar Evers, assassinated in Mississippi, 1963, just a few months before the March on Washington. I was just playing that. I played that before. It's not really directly relevant for the broadcast today, but that was quite an interesting segue to go from that to other victim of racism, Michael Jackson. Doesn't matter if you're black or white. That was not intended to have those two sequenced that way, but that was quite interesting to hear that play out. At any rate, you will, as the program continues, you will hear why I chose to play that, the Michael Jackson segment at the beginning of the broadcast. Our guest for today's program, we are almost there. I think almost all of the people who were featured in Tariq Nasheed's 2011 documentary success, Hidden Colors. I think we have got almost everybody who was in that film has been a guest on the program at least once. Dr. Booker T. Coleman, the filmmaker, Tariq Nasheed, Dr. Umar Abdullah Johnson, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Phil Valentine. We're rounding the bases. Almost got them all. Our guest for today, she was also in that documentary film. We had been working diligently, trying to get her on the program for quite some time. I know a lot of listeners out there are big fans of her work. They've read her material, seen her. She's done a litany of interviews, television, and radio programs. A lot of folks are really looking forward to the chance to hearing her on the cows. Glad we were able to make it happen for today. The book we'll be discussing today, her 1992 publication, The Blackwoman's Guide to Understanding the Blackman. Great text, a lot of constructive information. Her follow-up to The Blackman's Guide to Understanding the Blackwoman. Great information in both books. You can get them. They're available online. Check out both of them. If you have any confusion, any difficulties getting the text, dial in. You can ask the author, and she can give you any information you need about obtaining that material. Real pleasure to have her on the broadcast. Joining us for the first time, our guest, Dr. Shahrazad Ali. Dr. Ali, are you with us?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Outstanding. Is it possible? Could you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, of course I can. Usually I'm too loud, but yeah, I can speak up a little bit. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. That is better. Thank you so.
I thought we were going to be talking about hidden colors.
I hope to do both. I have the book, so I always enjoy being able to chat with an author about material that they've written. But yeah, we definitely, I plan to touch on both of them, if that's acceptable.
That was my invitation, was because I had, appeared in the Tariq's DVD of Hidden Colors. So, I would like to talk about those other books too, but, they just carry a different kind of idea, and it's Sunday night. People tired. They got to go to work tomorrow, so we don't want to just rile them up like that, okay?
Right on. We don't mind being riled here on the cows, but yeah, definitely. I definitely want to touch on Hidden Colors. As I said, we've had almost all the folks who've been in that film on the program, so definitely want to make time to discuss that as well. For any of our listeners, this might be their first time hearing from you. If you could give them any background information, anything that you think folks should know about you before we get started.
Yes, certainly. I wrote my first book, How Not to Eat Pork or Life Without the Pig, in 1985. And I did that coming out of Atlanta. I was working at Clark College, and I completed that work, and it prompted me to write my other work, which came 5 years later, which was The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Blackwoman, because everywhere I went with the book, How Not to Eat Pork, and as I talked with women, they had, at that time, now we're talking 1985, women had an idea that, I don't feel like changing that, I've been eating that, or my grandmama ate it, and she lived to be 90, and they just had a lot of, at that time, the idea of diet was not popular among our people. That's all recent history, over about the past 10 or 15 years. And so I was talking to them about not eating the pork. No meat was good, but certainly the hog, was different, and how eating it, affected your behavior. And a lot of things I was talking to them about. Told me it wasn't religious. It was health-wise. So we were going over all of that. And I noticed it was the women who were more adamant about, their refusal to deal with that. And I recognize that if we were withholding the proper food from the black man, and food is what sustains life, then what else were we withholding from him that would sustain his life on a mental and spiritual level? Maybe there were some other things we were doing, and that prompted me to start the research on us as black women and to find out what had slavery's ultimate impact been on us, and what were we doing to destroy the black family. Up to then, everything that had ever been wrong in the black community was always placed on the back of the black man. And then we were walking around under that false impression about we are the backbone of the black nation, the black woman was this and that. And not saying we haven't done some things, but I was looking then at the condition of our daughters and our children and recognizing, well, if we are the backbone, we must be a weak backbone because our children are going to hell right in front of our eyes. Now, as I said, remember, this was 23 years ago. And since then, of course, this is where we are today. Everything that I projected was going to happen has happened and even been worse. And so, then I wrote 2 years later, I wrote The Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Blackman. And, of course, that brought out some other ideas, too, about what our men's problems are and where did they get those problems from and what impact had them not having a father as a role model had on their lives. And why did they tell lies, and what was, the purpose of being so sexually involved without responsibility? Where did these things come from? So we dealt with that. And then I wrote, Are You Still a Slave? Now, that's a test book that determines how much of a slave are you still acting like even without a slave master. Because many of us are stuck in that rut, and we don't really know where some of those behaviors come from. But actually, under study, we are doing a lot of things right now to each other, especially, that we did in slavery. We haven't really made the kind of progress that we pretend we have made because of civil rights and so forth. And then after that, I wrote Urban Survival, which was a book about how to survive in the hood if you are short on food or water, or if the white people put you outside or cut off all your utilities. And what can we do? What options do we have, since most of us are totally dependent and don't contribute hardly anything but consumerism. So I wanted to discuss how do we survive on our own if we were ever forced to be in that kind of situation. And then after that, I wrote How to Tell If a Man is Gay or Bisexual. Of course, you know that went over like a hot lead bomb. People didn't. The most interesting thing I found out, Gus, when I wrote How to Tell If Your Man is Gay or Bisexual, is that most women's attitude was that they didn't care as long as he was with them, as long as he took care of whatever he was doing for them financially, and that was the biggest surprise. The second biggest surprise is that a lot of the gay brothers that I talked to say that they had first been molested by a woman, not a man. Those were the two major things that I found out in doing that research, and I thought those were spectacular things that are rarely discussed. And, those are the books that I have written. This year, what I plan to do this spring is to come out with a hardcover set edition of The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman and The Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man, because they are very difficult to find now, because I haven't had any out in several years, because I've been working on the follow-ups that I'd like to put out in hardback. The exact book, I'll just add something in the back on it, and this will be a collector's edition so that people who have had them and people have stole them and borrowed them and never returned them, and all the different things that have happened to our books over the past 20 years. I was going to give everybody one that they could put on the shelf in hardback. So, that was important. And that's what I've been doing lately. And I have been on, of course, most of the shows that we've had over the years, back when we had a lot of talk shows in the 90s. And I refer to myself as the mother of the Black Book Explosion. And before The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman, which was through a company that I opened myself, Civilized Publications, we didn't have a lot of black books. In fact, we all knew the black books that we had pretty much, I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing, Roots, and The Fire Next Time. We all almost could quote all of the black books that we were aware of. And our books were not in the white bookstores. They certainly were not used in the schools as required reading or the colleges. And a lot of things hadn't happened, and that's not tooting my own horn in that way. It's just saying that I was very blessed to be able to open up an entire industry for black people. And that can be proven by going into any bookstore or any library and look at any black book in there, and all of them will be after 1990, after The Black Man's Guide. We've had wonderful books put out, but we didn't have any at that time but a few. And so that's, something that I'm very proud of. That's what I've done. And the fight is so hard. Our people are so resistant to change. We are so stubborn and headstrong in the wrong direction. I had to pull back and give up the fight and come home to my family and try to repair myself mentally and physically, because it's a hard job out here trying to help people who are mentally blind, deaf, and dumb and led in the wrong direction and like it. Very hard job.
System of white supremacy. Very difficult job trying to correct all of the problems created.
Right. And, one of the problems we have is that if we have heard about something, we think we did it. And so if you try to sometimes tell us about something that we should be doing, our attitude is, I heard that before. I already know about that. Yeah, we tried that or whatever. And that's not really true, Just because we heard something does not mean that we've done it, explored it, or had success with it. And there are no new solutions because there are no new problems. We got the same problems now we had in the 40s. We haven't, like I said, we haven't made the progress we pretended that we made, except, of course, we look at our entertainers and our sports people, and we think that means that we've come a long way. But we really haven't. It's a mirage, and I agree. It is a system of white supremacy that most of us have succumbed to.
Absolutely. This program, Context of White Supremacy, I have unfortunately concluded we are in a global system of racism, white supremacy. I use those two terms as synonyms, racism, white supremacy. I use the same definition for both terms. The definition I use is as follows: a global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. Do you believe that such a system exists, and do you think that is an accurate definition?
Well, I certainly think that's one of the definitions, and that system definitely exists. And our great-grandparents, our grandparents, and our parents have all had to live under it and suffer under it and try to bring us forward to get a new idea. Many of us didn't accept the truth about that, and many of us love the enemy. And I'm with what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. I'm not going to have to convince you that the white man is a devil. The white man will convince you himself. And I certainly agree with that. I don't talk it a lot because most of y'all scared to hear that, but that's the truth. You know, what you're saying is the absolute truth. There's a difference in the words knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So after we have the knowledge of who the enemy is, then how do we develop the wisdom to be able to understand that fact enough to protect ourselves and change the condition of our people? That becomes the question. You know, we can pass around, and that's, what my position is about Hidden Colors. It was wonderful. It is as popular now as it was when it came out. In fact, it's probably more popular now, and people love it. And I go to several different things where, I'm invited because they're having community showings, church showings, and schools, and they're using it in some high schools, white and black, incidentally. And so, this is a very important work. Now, what's interesting is that this is 2013 now. We were in 2012. And the fact that all of that information is almost like a surprise to our people. It's so new to them, to their ears, that many of them are saying they're listening to it over and over because they're trying to, really take it in, and they love it because it's the truth. Now, how is it we've had all these filmmakers, all of these people who've done theater, all this spoken word, all this, everything that we've had out here for the past 444 years, and Hidden Colors has got information in it that most of our people didn't know. So we have completely been miseducated. We don't have, as I said, an educational system for our children, and we keep passing on the same erroneous information while we sit back and just grumble about it. And that concerns me a great deal because we tend to do a lot more talking than we do actions. And shows like yours, this is a great idea because it does hold up that bloodstained banner of truth about who the enemy is. Our people have been programmed to love the enemy. In fact, we love the enemy more than we love our friends. And so it's very difficult to get us to accept that truth. And my boy, as I talk about him all the time because he's such an example of what the children are going through in the schools now. He was in school, and they were having a discussion, and he told the children that God was black, and they told him he was prejudiced. Start teasing him, turned against him, and gave him a reputation. No, I don't play with him because he's prejudiced. This is how programmed even the little children have been. This information has been instilled in them to hate self, not to put self up high, and if we say that the black man is the original man, or that we were the first people on earth, then other people say, oh, you teaching racial superiority. Why not? We are superior. That shouldn't be a secret. Our children should know that they're superior instead of inferior. We're not a minority. Our children should know that. But we're not insisting that those things are taught here in where I'm at, in Cincinnati. They had that exhibit here and in Philadelphia where they talked about Cleopatra and Tutankhamun, King Tut, and all of that. And they had a statue of him in there when you leave of a white guy, white boy. Now, every educator, so-called black educator, all them PhDs and LLDs and MDs and all of them that's out there in all these different places all over should have been the first people to protest that and should have been at that exhibit marching and protesting about those lies. But nobody said a word. And they really censored me because I was bringing that forward, that this is a lie. How you going to have an exhibit on King Tut and not even show the people that Egypt is in Africa? I mean, it's just raw. It's wide open. They wouldn't even have an exhibit if they had went and robbed us, making millions of dollars, of which our people are not getting any of it for any school, any educational system, any community center, nothing, And they make money off of what our people have created. And I say that because we have to remember it. You got that group of people that say that was a long time ago. Forget it. We have to move on. We can't let that hold us back. No, we can't let it hold us back, but we should let it propel us forward. We live in a country where all they do is talk about remember the Alamo, remember Pearl Harbor, remember 9/11. That's all this country do is remember everything, except on us. They want us to forget our history. And I think that's unfair. I think our people have been duped into thinking that whatever happened to us has no impact upon us today, which is why I wrote, Are You Still a Slave? Because it does have an impact upon us today. Right now, as we speak, all of those things affect us and affect our inability to get along with each other. It's all connected. All of the worlds have a joining on. We don't have a separate universe that we exist in. We exist in this one that you're talking about that has been ruled and is ruled by white supremacy. And that does not just affect us physically and economically, it affects us psychologically, mentally.
Absolutely.
Am I talking too much? Am I talking too much, Gus?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Not at all.
I want to give you time to, ask questions if you want to. But, these subjects, these topics are my favorite topics. And so when I get an opportunity to discuss them to a large group of people, then I try to do that. And I know that all kind of people listen to your show, probably all over the world. And so this is important that the people who are trying to come over here understand our condition and how we got like this, instead of them having a preconceived notion because of what they've been taught through the system of white supremacy that we are dumb, we are stupid, and then the easiest thing to do is come here and rob us some kind of way and trick us out of our money. That's what everybody do. That's why everybody open up in our community. We're the easiest target.
Absolutely. I think we understand that clearly. I did want to ask about, because this is in the film, Hidden Colors, where you talk about your son, Hassan, and you were saying that you did not have him in the public school system. You had been teaching him yourself, homeschooling him, that his IQ scores were off the charts, genius, 153 IQ, and you put him in the public school system, and of course, white people went to work on him. You said after not too long, he was barely passing. Can you give some more details around what specifically happened?
Well, it's just that they repressed him. They repressed his leadership skills. They left him out of projects. Sometimes they would give him overly an amount of work to frustrate him so he couldn't get it completed. And, of course, they were combative with me all the time. And it just is a terrible situation. And I put him in there because I listened to some people talking about he needed the socialization process with other Negroes and white people, and that he needed to get out into the world. And that was only partly true, because he was in the world, because we would go into the library and the stores and trips and things. He saw them, and I was able to teach him about them. But after I put him in there, it changed his life. And I have him now in what they call a charter school, which is a better educational system, but the children are still savage and ill-mannered and out of control, so he's not around his own kind. And that's still, our fault, because, I had been taught for many, many years, since 1967, when I learned the truth, that we should have our own schools and educate our own children, and that we should not count on white people, our enemies, to educate our children, And, of course, but you have the black people that say, but I know some good white people. Well, there may be some, but we're not qualified to decide who they are, because we haven't been taught on how to tell what part is technology and not. By the time we find out what the trick is, it's been played on us already. So I've had to go through that with him and to make sure that he holds on to the truth and holds on to what I've taught him at home, because that's the information he is going to need as an adult in the world. And it is really unfair to send our children out into the world without telling them the truth, and about the fact that there are people out there waiting to kill them or put them in prison to make money off of them. And anybody that doesn't tell their children that, especially their sons, they're putting them at a complete disadvantage, and they'll walk right into the trap and get snared and mess up their life for years. And so I don't hold that back from my child. I tell him the truth because he has to know the truth to survive in this world so that he can protect himself. I'm not sending him out there telling him that you have equality with all these people and they're all going to treat you the same, or that we live in a meritocracy and that everything you do will be based upon your merit according to what the tests or the papers say. That's a lie. None of that's true. It's just not true. And also about what the price of success is in this country if you're doing it working for some of them. You have to completely give up yourself. You have to deny self. You have to participate in certain type of rituals, secret different things that they have established so that they can allow you in. So it's a lot of money available out here working with big white companies, but the price you have to pay is phenomenal. And it is one that ultimately, that's why so many of our rich and successful end up dying or killing themselves or killing somebody else or having breakdowns, because it's a very heavy burden. The only thing worse than failure is success.
Since you said you share this information with your child, you don't try to hide the fact that we are under white. Does your child, because I hear this a lot from people, they say they are afraid to tell their children the truth about this because they don't want their child to hate white people. Does your child hate white people?
Yeah. Oh, no, he doesn't. He just knows who they are. No, I don't teach him hate. Knowledge is not hate. I don't know where we got that from. And the actual fact is that we're living around people who their ancestors and them, and they look just like their ancestors, did terrible things to us generationally, nationally, internationally, continuously right now. And so for me to tell him the truth about that, it's just so he can be watching out. Now I have to tell him about the black people that love them too, because they can also try to hurt him. Okay, so I've had to tell him about both sides. It's a real narrow walkway that your child has to maneuver through in order to survive here in the hills of North America, because it's very, very rough. But I talk to them all the time. I talk to their children and to them who are afraid that if they tell their child the truth, that it will hold them back. I say, no, what holds them back is you not telling them the truth. They're vulnerable. They're ignorant. Because white people tell their children the truth. You can go in white people's house. White people don't have black people hanging on their walls. Not on no calendars, not on no pictures, not on no nothing. But in almost every black person house, you got some white person hanging up on the wall in there somewhere. We live differently. Our ideas are different. They talk differently when they're not around us. We make it forbidden to say anything about them in our homes because, like you say, then we say that that's teaching racism. We're trying to teach survival. We need to change the language. And maybe our children will not be, wouldn't grow up and be so ignorant and hate themselves. See, that's the trade-off. When you teach them to love the enemy, then you're teaching them to hate and discount themselves and their natural instincts. And when you mess with nature like that, then you end up with, these warped young people we see walking around there who are completely ignorant, who many of them, now I'm not speaking in absolutes before your callers call in and say, well, I got a child that's smart. I'm not talking about the entire 4,400,000,000 black people on earth. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about many of our young people. We see them in our schools. They're attacking our teachers. They're attacking their own parents. They're killing their parents. They're killing each other. If we collect up every gun in America, our people would kill each other with their bare hands. Because murder don't come from weapons. Murder comes from an idea. And if you're going to change the behavior of a people, you first have to change the way they think, the way they see things, how they look at stuff. That's the job.
Absolutely. I wanted to just touch on one more aspect with your son. You said you talked about the problems he encountered being in public school and how difficult it was for him in that environment. What sort of behavioral changes did you observe in the time that you had your son enrolled in white people's public education system?
he became, he never became hostile because, as I said, I had taught him some. But, however, he became sad because he felt he didn't have any friends. He felt they didn't like him. They teased him. They would tease him about why you do your homework every night. You know, so it didn't make him want to stop doing his homework, but it made him start hiding his homework to turn it in so nobody would see that he was doing his work. It made him decide that some of the teachers weren't on his side and were not supportive of him, and they weren't. And I had to go up there and see them about that constantly and help them, you know, and try to point out to them of what their own prejudice was against a child like the one I had. They want them all to behave the same, and they want them all to be ignorant so that, you know, they can they don't have to exert as much energy to try to teach them. My child had questions. He had information, and if they said things that weren't true, he would raise his hand and say, well, that's not true because of whatever. Now, don't forget, we're talking about a child under 10 years old, under 9 at the time, okay? And that was difficult. And he would just come home and be sad. He didn't like it. He hated it. And I fought it for as long as I thought, you know, it was feasible to. And then ultimately I said, okay, that's enough of this. You know, we're going to do something different. I wasn't trying to change the system, but I did try to work with, at that time he wasn't passing classes yet, so I was trying to work with the teacher to get her to a greater understanding. And there were some white teachers who did understand more than some of the black teachers. And I think that's a misnomer, too. Sometimes we say that the white teachers are the ones that are against our children in school. You know, they teach, as you say, white supremacy in a different kind of a way. But a lot of the black teachers in a lot of our schools, they don't want to talk about anything like that because of fear. They're afraid they'll lose their job. All their bosses are usually white, and they don't want a reputation of teaching what you said, racism. Anytime we talk about ourselves, they call it racism. White people talk about themselves, it's called history. It's just so unfair how the whole thing is set up against our children, and he just didn't want to go. It made him not like his life like he used to, and that's the main thing that we understand. He didn't get mean with us. He didn't try to follow them. He didn't try to behave like them, you know. But he did recognize that he was different from them, and I had to explain to him why. You know, and he had parents. Many of those children didn't have a father. You know, some of them didn't have a mother. You know, and we drove him to school and picked him up in a car. They teased him about that. Oh, it was just awful what they do in there. And he's in class now in school, and they had a thing on the election. They were all discussing it, and one of the little boys told him, well, I hope Barack Obama wins because I want to keep my food stamps. You know, now these are children that are 11, and they already understand the system of getting food stamps and how important it is for them to have them or whatever. And he asked me, did we get food stamps? I said, no, because they wouldn't give me any. I said, so we have to buy our food with money. So he said, oh, and then he asked me to explain that to him. And I tried to explain it to him. I don't have a problem with our people getting welfare, food stamps, unemployment, disability. White people call that reparations. Okay, I don't have a problem with us getting any of those things because we have so many issues and problems of survival. And if we need those things, we've put into this Bank of America for 444 years. And so if that's what it takes for us to survive, it doesn't bother me that many of them get it and that I don't or you don't. It's okay with me because many of our people need that to survive. And if that's the only way they think they can make it, then I don't have a problem with that, you know.
Wow. Did, given, you know, the issues you've raised already, you talk about this in the book, did any of the sexual confusion, any of the misinformation around sex, did any of that come up while your child was in the public school system?
Yes. Because he had little girls in his room, and the little girls were, they were his age. They were 10 and 11, and he had little girls that said they were in love, and he had to come home and ask me about that. And then the teachers had to make special allowances for those children. And we're talking elementary school, okay? And he experienced a couple, two sisters, come to pick their child up at the school and overheard the mother telling the child, go get in the car with your daddy. And that was another woman. So, our children are exposed to all kind of nonsense out here, and that's perpetrated through the school system. They're making special classes for children who are not sure, what they want to be, a male or a female. And this is why we need role identification and gender identity classes. We need all of that in our communities. We don't have to count on the school for all of that. We need to be teaching that in these 10 billion churches we got, teaching that in a lot of our community centers where we have classes or have some control over. We need to be teaching that to our children because our children don't know what a man's supposed to do and what a woman's supposed to do. And that's because our women bought into the white feminism idea many years ago and have carried that forward. But we went to a program because they had included on the school calendar something about Gay Day or something, and I went to a protest about and object to it and everything. And so I raised so much hell about it and got petitions and everything that ultimately they took it off the calendar. But you know what the trade-in was? They took Black History off the calendar, too.
Wow.
So that was how they did that. Said, okay, we'll take off Gay Pride Month, and then we'll take off Black History Month, too. So I say, as you just said, this is a system of white supremacy. And there's racism even in homosexuality. And people rarely talk about that either, but there's racism in there between the people and so forth. So it's just an awful thing. And, of course, he had a couple of teachers that he recognized were gay, and he came home and told me that they were gay, and I say they were. And, of course, by then that was the final, straw. Say, okay, you're out. That's it, We going to have to do something else, And if he had to drop out of school now, he'd know more than all of them know, and he knows enough to survive. If he had to take the information he got right now, as long as it was reinforced each year, he would be able to function out here because he know who is who and what they do, why they doing it, and what they're trying to accomplish. I've given him all that information. He can discuss politics. I done brought him all the way into it. I won't have no baby knowledge when it comes to survival of our children. It only has to be age appropriate if you're talking to them about like sex and where babies come from when they're little. But when they get big, when I say that, I mean when they start getting 7, 8, 9, 10 years old and everything, we have to tell them the truth. Because all of that information they're taking in, they're like a little sponge. And the information they're taking in, if it's not the truth and they have a false foundation, then they're going to fall victim to everything out here.
Absolutely. I am curious, just in case any folks out there listening, black people that have children, what language did you use when you went to talk to the people at the school about trying to get rid of the Gay Day or whatever it was? What words were you using? What did you do specifically to get them to take it down?
I put together a brochure called Being Straight is Okay, and I went in there to report heterosexuality, and I talked about the fact that we didn't want our children contaminated about their sexual identity by people who were making suggestions to them. And I had to talk to the entire school board with a room full of people, incidentally, okay? And I told them that I didn't want my child exposed to that and that they are teaching this stuff in the schools in such a way that it would make the children who were not inclined to experiment with homosexuality, it would make them afraid to say that they were heterosexual. It would make them afraid to say that they were straight. And so I made this brochure, as I said, saying being straight is okay. And I used that theme throughout the brochure to talk about the different things, in ways that we could protect our children, because it had got so that in the elementary school, a lot of the little girls who were pretending that they were boys were attacking the little girls who were straight. This going on right now. and running in gangs and the female in our society has always been more aggressive than the male. That's among all mammals. And so as a result of that, they were really, these people are very aggressive, the adults and the children. And they were insisting, in fact, if you look at the gay population right now, they got more jobs than everybody. They own television more than everybody else. They got shows. They got everything because nobody's going to turn them down for fear of being called homophobic. Now, they don't mind being called racist, but you don't have to be afraid of gay people because you don't want to be around them. They have a right to do what they want to do. I don't have any problem with that part of it. But don't force your idea on the rest of us. See, they're exhibitionists. They don't want to just be gay. They want to tell you they're gay. They want you to say, oh, yeah, that's okay, or that's normal. And, it's just real hard. So I've had to talk to him about that. I talked to the adults about that. And all of the people on the school board froze, incidentally. They were terrified. The cameras and everything were there from the news station because I had announced that this is what my topic was going to be. So, there were very few who had come out to support me because they were all afraid. Because you don't know who these people, what jobs they run and what they're in charge of. And they've turned it into a thing similar to the civil rights thing, so they're making it where if you against me, then you against racial progress or something. Well, being gay is not a race. Okay? And how somebody has sex, that's not a nationality. That's their own private business. And as I said, they shouldn't be forcing it on my child. And I don't want him around no man acting like a woman. And I don't want him around no woman acting like a man. And I made that very plain to them, and they could not defend that. And so, as I said, they took it off of the calendar. But when they reprinted the calendar, the gays had went down and protest without my knowledge or me knowing anything about it, and insisted that if they couldn't have Gay Pride Month, then we couldn't have Black History Month. And they took that off the calendar, and it remains off. And that was 4 years ago. Okay? So this is how they play it. And they lobby. They got a strong lobby everywhere they are, And as I said, so many of them in positions of power, you don't know who you're talking to. So I'm sitting down there complaining to the school board. Everybody on there could have been gay for all I knew, It's a very difficult thing. You have to explain to your child, and you have to explain to your teenagers, because a lot of what these children are doing is experimentation. We like a fad, and I'm convinced that a lot of our women are just into the fad right now of being gay. They're just experimenting. They've done everything with sex that's possible, and so now they're looking for something else. And when they look for that, that's male or female, they either look for that either in small children, some kind of perversion like that, with animals, or with a member of the same sex. That they usually don't go outside of that. So it's a very, very difficult situation to have your children be exposed to, or for a parent to have to try to deal with that in their child who take on that idea.
Context of White Supremacy. Again, our guest, Dr. Shahrazad Ali.
I will double check, see if some of if our co-host, she has a question or questions. Justice, if you have some questions for Dr. Shahrazad Ali, I'm going to your line. I do want to give out the number in case listeners, folks out there have questions. The number to dial is 760-569-7676, and the code is 564943 pound. Press star 6 if you have questions. Justice, your line should be open. Please proceed.
Greetings, Dr. Ali.
Yes, ma'am.
Earlier I heard you mention that you wrote a book about meat and that meat affects the behavior. I was just curious if you eat meat.
Yes, I've eaten some meat. Mm-hmm. I don't eat it, like now. But yes, I have eaten meat in my life, of course.
Okay, so you don't eat meat anymore? Or?
No, I haven't eaten meat in the past just 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Because prior to that time, I was eating lamb, some of the best lamb. I loved it and everything. But I just decided that due to health concerns that I didn't want to, have to deal with the cholesterol issue and everything. So I was willing to make those final changes to change my diet.
Mhm. What are some of the constructive results from you not eating meat?
Well, my cholesterol went down to like 149. I think that was really, really good. That was great. And just not having to deal with the dead animal aspects of it. I just felt better without having to use the grease cooked out, with the oil and the things like that. But anybody who doesn't eat, no meat is good for you. Many intelligent people know that. However, statistics are showing that our people are eating more pork, in particular, than any meat that they have out there. So, it's really in all the fast food restaurants, it's in all the other restaurants, it's on all the cooking shows. They pushing that hog really hard. But I have also lately been leaning on being vegan, just completely, getting away from it that way. So I've experimented with it on different, stages and so forth. And I know that the people who are vegetarians, that they're really strong on their idea too. So I respect that because, as I said, I know that no meat, my teacher has taught me, no meat is good for you. And if you had to eat any, of course it should be baby squab pigeons, some of the best ones. If we could get that, we probably can't even get it in this country, So I just pushed it back. Are you vegetarian?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I thought so. Okay. Well, that's great.
Yeah, I thought you were one too because I heard you talking about it earlier.
Yeah, well, that's good. We need young women to be vegetarians so that they can teach their children that way and raise their children on a no-meat diet, and their child ultimately has better behavior because, as I said, we act like what we eat. That is the truth. And so that's good if you're young and a vegetarian and learning to do those. We need books on that particular subject of how to put together food that's not just tofu. Because most people think that if that's all you have to eat if you're vegetarian, and you and I know that that's not the truth. There's wonderful menus and food that I really enjoy every day.
Mhm.
That's vegetarian based.
I'm going to change the subject just a little bit, or actually, I'm going to change the subject. What did you do for homeschooling?
I just got different books. They have books out on how you do that, and I didn't put him online with any homeschool or anything. I just taught him myself. And usually when you do homeschooling, it's only from like 9 to 12. We don't need the children in the school 7, 8 hours. That's something we do to give somebody a job, and so that they'll babysit our children, But the educational process doesn't take that long, and we went all year round. That's the other thing I did. I didn't have no summer vacation in our time. We just he had to go to school all year round, but like I said, it was usually from about 9 to 12, and I just had the best books and DVDs and different things like that I used. And I had friends who were teachers who I would have, if he got stuck on something, I would have them to go over certain ideas with him so that he could get the concept and understand it. But I have him back in a charter school now, which is really good. It's run by 2 sisters, and they are dynamite. And so I really like that. And they deal with the truth in there about the Indians and everything. They pro-black. And so I'm with them, and I support them, and I donate to them.
I'm homeschooled myself. What suggestions do you have for attempted parents or people who homeschool?
Well, the main thing you have to have is the time, so you can set up a system that you actually adhere to every day. That's what I found was the most demanding. You have to have the time to do that because you can't take a small child and sit them down and say, here, study this book. You have to have the time to put in and make that paramount in your life. Like going to the gym every day. You got to do that every day, and that's got to be on your schedule. And it has to be information that you can use for the world. I could show him things in the world to verify what I was teaching him. Show him different programs on TV, people's behavior and different things, to teach him about food. I, took him to the grocery store, and I went through the whole store with him and showed him what the pork looked like, what the beef, what the chickens. I showed him how to read labels, how to tell how much fat was in something, how much sodium, and, that kind of hands-on thing when you're homeschooling is wonderful. And you don't have to take, the good thing about homeschooling is that in school, when they have a class on something, they may have that class and study that same thing all month. Well, when you're homeschooling, you can study that in 2 days and the child know that information. It doesn't take that long to absorb that. Like I say, they just dumb the children down in there because they don't move at a speed because they got to stretch it out because that's how their payroll go, But I think that having the time, being able to teach the child to be independent, to be able to do their work, and you just be able to check it, and to have reward sessions. And by school only being half a day, you can take the rest of that day and have a child involved in other activities, not just sports, but in other activities. I taught him to cook. I taught him to run the dishwasher, use the washer and dryer, to iron some of his clothes. And I taught him how to barbecue outside. And then I would take him to different flea markets and show him how to pick out different things for a cheaper price than what they sell in the stores. I taught him budgeting like that. I would take him to the bank and send him in there and tell him to go make a deposit. And he had to go in there and fill out the slip himself. And it used to blow their mind up in the bank, that this little child could come in there and do that, because you got adults that don't know how to fill out a deposit slip for the bank. You got adults that don't know how to fill out a money order, okay? People order my books and different things from me and send me a money order and sign it on the front and on the back. So it's a lot of information we don't have that in homeschooling you can teach a child. Children come out of school, don't know how to address a letter, don't know how to go to UPS, don't know how to use the post office, don't know how to do any of those things. Well, when you're homeschooling, you teach your child all those basic skills that you must know to survive in America. So that's the way, my homeschooling went. I didn't just, like right now, for this school, they learning about the Renaissance. Well, we really been going through that, The Renaissance is the period of history when they came out of the caves. And this is how they rebuilt, their lives over there in Europe. And so I was able to connect the histories and show him how that really worked. And now that makes sense to him. And now, more importantly, he's interested in it. Because most of what they teach, they make it so boring, the children don't want to learn it because they can't connect it to themselves. Where every lie they tell in the schools, I can always connect it for him to the truth and how they start telling that lie and what it was designed to cover. So that makes it very interesting, and that's how you homeschool your child, which is a little unconventional, I agree, but it does make your child be able to be aware of what's going on.
How do you help your son learn and understand racism, white supremacy?
I just showed him different examples, and I told him their history and what they had done to us, and the result of what they had done to us. I showed him pictures. Some of them were horrible, but I let him know that truth, and I talked to him about it. And I showed him the difference in the different nationalities of people. I showed him the Asians. I showed him the Latinos. And I showed him the white people and the black people. And then I showed him the different shades of those people. So, he could understand a little bit more about that. And each year, I would just give him more and more information on those different things like I do now. He's 12 now. And so it's wide open now at 12, And then I just told him the truth about what they had done to us and how they cover it up. And I told them about every time they do something to Obama, I really use him as an example in the past couple of years to show them, see, now they're doing this because of that. This is how they work it. This is how they maintain control. This is how they all get together, and show them how they practice racism without having a meeting about it. They just all have the same idea. And that's what we have to have, all of this about black people going to get together in unity. Not going to happen. But we all could get the same idea, and therefore everybody would be working toward the same goal, because white people don't have no meetings no more talking about, okay, this is how we going to repress black people. They don't have to. It's instinctive. It's what's been in their family. It's what they've been taught. This is how it works. And so that's how I've got him to thinking. And that's not saying that he's not going to be around them or work with them or for them, because that's how he can sometimes go in there and learn something. But it does mean that he is to get an education to benefit self and kind, not to get an education to go work for them and let them pick his brain and use it. You know, and it's just a wonderful thing to see how he makes selection and purchasing things. You know, he don't wash up sneakers and tennis shoes, because I explained that whole thing to him, and about how they tricked our sports entertainers into making those sneakers and tennis shoes be the top thing, how they trick our people into being ashamed if they don't have on a sneaker with some white man's name on it. And I explained to him that if the sneaker don't have your name on it, it don't have no real value to us. And so unless you're going into the sneaker business, we're not going to pay anybody $100 for a pair of sneakers. We're not going to pay them $75 for a pair. And I talked to him about clothing, how you dress, just everything. I just explained and showed him how the system is and how the people that sell these different things to us, most of them don't spend any time with our people, don't employ them, and take care of themselves. And that's what he was going to have to do, is take care of himself.
How old was your son when you started to teach him about racism, white supremacy?
4, 5.
Okay.
Yeah. I told him who the devil was right away. No, he was a little child right away. I had books I was reading him, showing him stuff. Oh, no, I told him right away. Why would I save that and let him learn about Batman and Superman? You understand? No, I gave him the truth first. You know.
Do you let your son watch TV?
Yes, he watches television.
Okay.
Not everything. You know, he don't watch everything, but I let him watch some TV, yes.
Right. What do you encourage your son to read or watch? Any particular films, people to study, authors or inventors at all? Or,
No, he's into inventions, and he's into cartooning, and he's a skateboard person, and he plays golf. And I introduced him to those things because I didn't want him just on the court playing basketball, and because of the people that play basketball, I didn't want him to learn that ignorance right away. So I put him in golf, so he would be in around another class of people who perhaps had some of the same goals and the family structure that he had. And so that worked for him for a while. He played that, but he decided he liked the skateboarding, so he did that. And we read. We go to different book fairs all the time. He has, in fact, this is really interesting. He has his own library, and I have my own. So he got his own book library. We don't ever have no confusion about who books is who. He got his own book library wall, and I got mine. But he's an avid reader. Right now he's reading Driving While Black, which is a book I've had on my shelf for a while, and he saw it, and sometimes he'll, read some of those. And he reads a lot of books on wrestlers. He reads that. And he reads, I don't think what else. He reads a lot of books on drawing and art and cartooning and things like that.
I'm going to change the subject again. What is your book about, and what is your favorite part of your book?
Which book is that?
Oh, the 1990.
The Black Woman's Guide?
Yeah.
We can do the Black Woman's Guide. That's the one that Gus had mentioned when I started. I don't know. Maybe we ought to do the Black Man's Guide. I think let's start with that one. That was the first one. I think my favorite part of the Black Man's Guide was that it allowed us as black women to look at our behavior more than just looking at everybody else's, and to look at how have we contributed to the breakdown of the black family. We know how our man had. We've already got charges against him. So I wanted to have an opportunity to do that. Now, since that time, and of course I pointed out in detail how we have, had not been behaving properly. But as I said, that was up to 1990. Now, since that time, over the past 20 years, of course, it has gotten worse. In fact, my book was real deep and heavy at the time it came out in 1990. But however, since that time, things have deteriorated, just terrible now. And you being a young woman, let me explain this to you. I think that black women, not saying you're part of this, everybody's not a part of this, but a lot of our women are. I think that we are setting the worst example possible for our daughters and our sons. Now, let me tell you how. I think we are teaching our daughters that they are not good enough. And the way we're teaching that is that we're teaching them that their hair is not good enough, so you got to get a weave or a wrap or something, or put some braids glued in your head or whatever. I think we're teaching them that their fingernails are not good enough, so you got to go every 2 weeks and pay somebody to put you on some false ones. We're even teaching our little girls that their toenails are not good enough. So you got to go and get some toenails made up on your toes just like that. We're teaching them that their breasts are not good enough, so they're getting breast implants. We even have taught them even that their buttocks are not the right size. And so you got this huge group of women around the country that are pumping their buttocks up with that flat tire stuff that they use for cars so that they can have the biggest behind around men. We're teaching our girls that they're just not acceptable. And no matter, eyelashes. Black women ain't never wore eyelashes. Now that's the hot thing, too. They all wearing long things glued on their eyes so they can have long eyelashes. They're getting injections in their lips so that they'll have big, puffy mouth, even bigger than what we have. I mean, that's a bad impression to put on little girls. And then we take our little daughters to the beauty shop and make them sit there for hours while they put them 10,000 braids and barrettes in their hair. Or get a weave. They're doing everything. All of this we're doing on our little girls, and I think it is just awful because they're going to grow up to hate themselves and think that they're not acceptable or presentable unless they have a lot of this false stuff on, which also economically takes money out of our community because we go pay it to other people. We pay it to the Asians, we pay it to the Africans, we pay it to anybody. But all of that is saying that what you look like, your skin, your hair, everything is not acceptable unless you buy something to put on or attach to your physical body that will make you beautiful. And I think that is the worst thing. Now, the interesting thing about that is that when you talk to black men, they really don't care about all of that. What we think as women is attracted to a man is 99% of it is wrong. And a lot of times we see the proof of this. We'll see a sister who we think is not attractive at all, and she'll have some big, fine man with her, and we'll be saying, I wonder how she got him. Or vice versa. We see that. Because it's not about any of the things we have made up. It's just not that. And our way of mating, we've given our daughters a bad idea about that. All of these sexual gyrations and shaking and bucking and grinding and all of this that we're doing in the public and in the clubs to get attention. I say all the time, you can always tell about a woman's level of confidence by how many clothes she take off. Whenever you see a chick out there and she got all her clothes off, she's showing her breasts, her skin tight, this is the most terrified one in the room. She's scared to death that nobody will like her. Nobody wants her. And so that's one of the ways that we try to make ourselves attractive. We think if we can take our man and keep his mind completely on sex every time and all the time he see us, that'll make him love us. No, it doesn't. To incite a man to sex doesn't mean love. We need to teach our girls that. We always talking about we the backbone, as I say, of the black community. Well, we are very poor backbone when you look at the condition of our girls. We have set a terrible example. And I think that the media, the videos, and all those things have promoted that. Most of the people we know, we don't even really know how they look because they got on so much fake stuff. And it's pulling our hair out around the sides of people's head, and they'll just keep getting them and just insist on it, And our men are doing the same thing. getting those weaves and stuff. And I think that that's such a bad example. We went through so much in the 60s to accept self, and black is beautiful, and black pride, and your own natural hair or eyes or skin. And now all of that's been reversed because of economic reasons. They promoted us into thinking in order to be beautiful, this is what you need. And so I think that that's something that should be talked about more. Now, there is a move going on now where many of the sisters have started wearing their hair back natural. And I'm not just saying you got to wear your hair natural, but at least wear your own hair. That's what I'm saying. You know, I don't think that we should just keep doing that and forcing it on our little daughters, making them wear it and think if they don't have long hair hanging down their back that they're not acceptable. That is just so terrible. I watch the little girls, and it's just an awful thing. And I think that that's something that young women like yourself could work on.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. Gus, go ahead.
You're welcome.
Context of White Supremacy. I will hit the phone lines because quite a few folks dialed in, see if people have questions. It looks, at least for right now, looks like there are a lot of people who have a hand up to get a question in. So if we can try to stick with questions and not statements, stories, anecdotes, just sticking with questions, that would be helpful so everybody gets an opportunity to get their question in. Much obliged. I will give out the number again. It is 760-569-7676, and the code is 564943#. Press star 6 if you have a question. I will go down the line, the order of people dialed in. I believe this should be S. S. Your line should be open, sir.
Good evening, Gus. Good evening, Justice, and good evening, Dr. Shahrazad Ali. I've read your work and followed it over the years, and I really appreciate it. I have a question for you. With the new movie that's out, Django, right now, bringing to the forefront the issue of slavery for young people, there are, BET these days has been running Roots and series like Queen and things of that nature, so a lot of the young people are watching these series. And I noticed a parent posted a message on Facebook concerned about whether or not he should watch Roots with his young child. And I said to him, why wouldn't you watch Roots with his child? And his response was, he didn't want his child to hate white people. Now, my issue is that when Roots came out, I believe it was 78 or 77, I was probably about 9 years old, and we watched Roots on TV. My question is, how can we encourage a lot of young people today who want this information, who want to be talked to honestly and authentically about our history and slavery and beyond that, when we are combating so many parents who are adverse to them being exposed to any of this information whatsoever?
Well, that question is real easy to answer. There is no way to do that. Not really. We've discussed that earlier on this very same show, that black people are afraid to let white people know that they are displeased about their slave history. Now, you would never have to, a Jewish mother would never say she is afraid to show her child pictures of the Holocaust. The Indians would never be afraid to show their children the battles that the white people waged against them to take their land and what they did to them. That is just something that black people share as a result of brainwashing. And the brainwashing that has been done to us through the idea of integration is responsible for creating a system where we would withhold the truth from our children and therefore deny them their birthright, their history. And there's nothing you can do with a bunch of slave adults who are still scary that somebody going to hate white people. They're afraid they're going to hate white people because they think they got to send their child to white people to get a job. But if you taught your child independence, you wouldn't have to worry about how they felt about them. They need to know the truth. I wanted my son to know the truth. And I have 4 children, and it's one thing I never have to worry about, them coming home with a white person talking about I'm in love. Because I've taught them the truth. They don't want that. And they all in different directions, but I don't have to worry about that because I taught them the truth. It don't mean they hate anybody, but they do know the truth, and they know to watch out for them. You know, so no, there's no way for a silly adult to say they don't want somebody to hate them. I think that's just absurd, and there is no way. They're not going to really teach that in school. And so you just have young people that grow up, don't know anything about it, or they have to have enough incentive to go get books and so forth themselves, you know. That I tell you, one book that really bring it home is that book, No Sanctuary. Oh, now there's a good book to give a young person to look at, especially if they're, say, 12 and up. Give them that Without Sanctuary and No Sanctuary. I forget the name of it. But that book would also help them. But, no, there's nothing you can do with an adult that's such a slave in their own mind that they want to pass that slave idea on to their children. There's nothing we can do about that.
Just a brief little follow-up, because my thing is that I'm encountering young people who want this information, and it's not the problem with the young people. The problem is that many of them are in fear of their parents finding out that they're being exposed to this information. So how do I give them this information without, you know, angering or being in conflict with their parents?
Well, that's a decision that you as an adult have to make. What is going to be more important, to teach the truth to our people or to submit to the idea of some old slaves that want to hide the truth and therefore put our children out there to get killed? So you're going to have to tell them just the truth. Now, I want to teach you the truth, but you know your parents don't approve of this. And just, you know, as I said, let's go with the truth on everything. Because you could always stand behind that. So just tell them the truth about that. They already know that. But now this is how ridiculous. There's no nationality of people in America where the parents would prohibit the child from learning the truth about their history, but the silly black people in America. That's why I'm no longer on tour, because I can't take it, brother. Good luck to you. You go on and work with them if you can. I'm working with these that I live with. That's my job that I'm dealing with, you know, because it's it's extremely disheartening to run into that type of problem that you just described, that their own parents, the adults who know the truth and who suffer under it, don't want to tell the child the truth so they can protect themselves. That's so silly. That's real hard to deal with. But anyway, thank you, brother. Good luck with that idea.
Thank you.
Person who called in, last 4 digits, 9776. 9776. Your line should be open. Did you have a question for Dr. Ali?
Yes. Good evening, Gus. Greetings, Dr. Shahrazad Ali. It's a treat and a pleasure. Yeah, it's a treat and a pleasure to be speaking with you this evening. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing just great.
All right. I have one question. Well, maybe 2 questions. Are you still practicing Islam?
Am I still a Muslim?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I'm still a Muslim.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on Elijah Muhammad's teaching on eating 1 meal a day? I know it's kind of off the subject, but I'm seriously considering taking that approach. What are your thoughts on that?
Medically,
and do you
been proven. And what?
Oh, I was going to say, and do you practice that as well?
No, I don't. It has been proven that eating 1 meal a day is sufficient for longevity. And that 1 meal is eaten within an hour and you can eat whatever you want during that time, but then you don't eat again, he said, because it takes a certain amount of time for the body to digest food. We live in a society where we have been taught to eat all day, all kind of foods because of economic reasons. You know, the people that we're talking about who run the white supremacy idea, they don't want people eating one a day. They don't want people to be vegetarian. They want people to eat meat. It's the most expensive, and they want you to eat all day because that sets up an entire system of medical facilities and doctors and pharmacies that have to address the problems you get from eating all day and eating meat. And so, yeah, 1 meal a day is good. I do it at certain times of the year, but I'm not able to do it all of the time because I have certain health issues that I have to eat something to take the medicine or whatever. But I eat as little as possible of certain types of foods because I know that they're not good for me. But if you do that, you would feel so much better. Your consciousness level would raise so. Oh, brother, if you start eating 1 meal a day, you'll see. Do it. Do it for a week or two. Just do it to see the difference in your life and your energy level and the way you're able to think and the clarity in your mind and everything that comes when you stop putting poison in your body all day long and just do it once a day.
All right. Right on. I just got one last question. Can I ask one more question, Gus?
Proceed.
I have been trying it for the past 3 weeks, and it has worked well for me. But I have families and friends who disapprove of it. And how do you deal with that?
Well, as I said, that's why you need to get my other book, How Not to Eat Pork: A Life Without the Pig, because what I learned in that research is that if you tell people that I don't drink milk, I don't use sugar, I don't eat butter, you can tell them any of that and they don't have no problem. But the moment you tell them you don't eat pork, oh, they have so many issues. And in that book, I explain how to deal with that and how you can handle that. You have to survive for yourself. You know that old thing, misery loves company. People that's eating a lot of hog or eating the wrong food or eating all day, then it's really a jealousy thing. They don't want anybody to have the discipline to be able to clean themselves up or not eat certain poisons in order to live long or do better. In fact, they will tell you, you think you better than me because you don't eat this or you don't eat that. And it's so silly. Once again, we're just dealing with such an entrenched level of ignorance among our people. But it's a shame, but it's like that. And so you just have to be strong enough to do the right thing for yourself, because in the end, you will be the winner. And you will be the one who will not have all these diseases and ailments and all of the problems that people get as they get older here in America. And so you just have to hold on to your own belief and do it. But that's so common that when you decide to clean up your diet, people get angry about that. And they object to it and they attack you. That's, once again, like I say, we're just a silly people. And I don't have a lot of confidence in our ability to get through a lot of things that's coming up on us in the future because of that ignorance. But no, you just hold on to your own principles and do that. As I said, that's why I wrote the Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Blackwoman, because I found out so many women were against changing their diet and stopped serving the hogs who didn't want to stop cooking pork. Oh, that's what I've been cooking. Oh, they used to tell me all kind of things. And that led me to do the research on the relationships between us as male and female. What else were we doing that was holding our man back or helping to kill him or repress him? Not just the white man, but he got to deal with the black woman and the white man against him, so that's a very difficult thing. But you just hold on to what you're doing, brother, and proceed into the future. You'll be the winner.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ali, for coming on the program and for answering my question.
Yes, sir. You're welcome, brother.
All right, bye-bye.
Person that dialed in, last 4 digits, 7076. 7076. Did you have a question for Dr. Ali? Your line should be open.
Yes, greetings.
Greetings.
I'm a black male who has been living his life as a white male, and I don't know what to do. Like, I was raised by my grandparents are racist, and I know you mentioned that white people don't have black people hanging up on their walls, and my grandparents do. And I recently got reconnected with my black father, but I don't know how my family's going to react to it, and I just want to know what you think I should do.
Now, let me understand this. You a light-skinned black man that's been pretending you was white? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was raised white.
Were you raised by white people?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Were you like adopted or something?
No. My mother is white and my father is biracial.
Oh,
I'm
I see. Okay.
I'm three-fourths white, so I'm mostly white. But when my parents divorced when I was 10, ever since then I've been white.
Okay. So your dilemma is that you want to now go and be black, or you want to stay white? What are you saying?
Well, I reconnected with my father after all these years, and my children are white, but I don't know what to do. Like, and
did you marry a white woman?
I have children with a white woman.
Yeah. Okay. But you want to have a relationship with your black father?
Yes.
Well, I always fall back on the one thing that we have always been afraid of. We have to live in truth.
But
falsehood is so painful. Falsehood is always painful. We have to live in truth.
Well, when does a black person stop being black and become white?
Oh, there's never any time that a black person stop being that. Now, your color may be a certain thing, but your nature is different. That's why you're asking this question. See, there's a difference in the nature of the white man and the black man. It's not just skin. There's a difference in the nature. Okay? And what's happening is that your heart is calling out for your black father and whatever's connected to him. But you are afraid you will lose your other standing with the white people that you have established a life with if they knew the truth about you. But if they love you like you say they think they love you, then they won't be afraid or offended if you are black. There are many black people. Listen, my father was an engineer, but he had to go to college in the 40s when they didn't let black men in engineering school, so he had to pretend he was white because his father was white and his mother was black, my grandfather. And so he had to pass for white to get through engineering school until he came out. And then once he got his license, then he came on out and went and started getting good jobs and everything as a black man. Okay? Being one of them first and so forth. And that was here in the Midwest. And so it's not impossible, but you ain't no mostly white. Ain't no such a thing, brother. I'm sorry I have to tell you that. You black. Now, the fact that you real fair-skinned and you look like you white, but it's not just based on color. As I said, it's based on a instinct, it's based on an understanding, and it's based on a heart idea. And your heart is pulling you right now, and that's what your frustration is of how do you vacillate between those two worlds. You know.
Well, what about my children?
Because they will have to learn the truth. Because let me tell you how it works. It might be when they grow up and get married and then have a little brown baby and wonder where it come from. So, you know, that's how the truth do you. Because black is the dominant gene, the melanin. So it's going to show up again. it's going to show up again, and that also has to also give you a fear in there. A lot of times people who are passing, they just don't ever have children because they know that it could show up at some point, you know.
Right.
But I wish that you could reconnect with the other side of your family. I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of, because that's what helped make you to who you are today. And if your family loves you, which I'm sure they do, and if the white woman you got love you, which I'm sure she does, then she'll be able to handle the truth. Because you can't live under that. That'll create so much stress, you'll have a heart attack. You won't be able to carry that forever. I'm telling you, brother, it's too heavy. You're going to have to get that burden off your back.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. Now, you might want to go and talk to a counselor or somebody, just a therapist, just to get it, some clarity on how you should approach it, how, you want to deal with it. But you are going to have to come to grips with the truth of that so that you can live in freedom. You can't be free carrying that around.
I've only told one person, and the way they took it it didn't go great.
Right, yeah. So that's what I said. You're going to maybe have to get some professional help. And just, it may just take one conversation for you to get some clarity on how to present it so that you can live in freedom. You can't sacrifice your well-being, mentally or physically, just so some other people can be satisfied with your identity. You're going to have to accept your own identity and deal with the truth of that, because there's nothing like freedom. That's why we, as black people, are in the condition we are today, because we don't know freedom. But the freedom of having any kind of burden lifted off your back gives you a whole new world to operate in. You're going to have to do something for yourself. You can't live your entire life, on them. You understand me?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I'm glad you brought that up, brother. I feel you. I feel you, and I hope that Allah bless you with some success with that, because you deserve to be able to be free.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before I moved on to the next call, I just wanted to ask the male who's just speaking with Dr. Ali, do white people, do they think you're white? Like, do they accept you as a white man?
Oh, yeah, that's what he already said, that, brother. Yes, they do.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm able to hear what they really think of black people all the time,
that's
constantly.
Right.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
They really hate it.
Yes, they do. And as I said, the difference in the black man and the white man is not just color. It is your nature. It is your nature that's different for you. And I hear you. It's different for you. And that nature is always going to be in rebellion with the real white people.
I'm pretty ashamed of myself, because in my lifetime, I felt like I've had to mistreat black people in order to keep myself afloat.
Yeah, this is really something. You are a perfect example of some of the reasons that I'm against interbreeding and interracial marriage, because it does create a child who grows up under this kind of stress and under this kind of stress and duress of trying to figure out who they are and what side they should be on, when nature will call to nature. That's going to happen with so many people around this country as things get different here. Nature's going to call to nature, and you're right. I know that they hate us, and so does Gus. And as I said, that's why I make sure that my son knows who his enemy is. Never mind that front that everybody put up. And as I said, white people ain't worried about teaching their children about hating black people. That's just something black people worry about. It's not about hate. It's just about knowledge. If we're going to try to subsist here together, then we have to have the knowledge. But I feel your pain. You're going to have to do something about that. You cannot live your whole life. See, one day something could trip you off, and you decide to go up in there and do something real crazy because you're carrying this heavy burden.
Right.
Yeah, so you got to deal with that, you know. You get talk to somebody and get it straight so you can get it out and get it straight and so you can be yourself. It's just no telling how great you could feel or be if you were living in truth. You have to choose yourself. You got to choose to survive for you. And if the people who are around you are pretending they love you just because you're white, then they don't really love you anyway. If they find out that you have some black blood. Black is the best. Black is the best.
I've only told my grandmother, and she told me that I was not, that I am not black. She said, look at them and look at us. You don't look like them.
Well, we're just talking about skin color. As I said, my father, if I didn't know any better, I would say that from a distance he was a white man, but he's not.
Yeah.
You know, so I do have a little insight on it, on what you're saying. You know, and as I said, I knew what he had to go through, and he told me how they talked about black people and how they treated them in college. He went through the same thing what you're talking about. He said, boy, they treat them so bad. He said sometimes he would have to grit his teeth not to defend them. But he couldn't because he was trying not to mess up his own future. That's a terrible position to have to be in. That's a terrible burden. You know, and it made him be real radical when he finally got out into the world because he knew the truth of what they had been saying about us behind closed doors, what they were plotting and planning, how they were tricking us and robbing us and doing everything. He knew the whole story, just like you do.
Yes.
And you done lived all these years under that. That's too much. That's too much.
I mean, I was forced to.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah,
I will.
It really is. Yeah.
Caller, I'm gonna move on to get some of the other folks, but yeah, that is worth a program right there, just to get more information on what the caller has experienced. But I will get some of the other folks that dialed in. The person that dialed. Oh, this is a call in the Bronx. Bronx caller, your line should be open.
Greetings, Samir.
Yes, sir.
Great. Good evening, Gus. Good evening, Shahrazad Ali, and the callers also, and Justice.
Good evening.
Yeah. I was really glad to hear about how you raised your son and everything, and I see a lot of parallels between myself and him. And I just want to applaud you for your job that you've done with him. And I wanted to ask, that the book Driving While Black, is that Kathy Harris? Is she the author?
I don't know, and I'm not in that room right now to get it. I don't know. But it's that book. Yeah, it must be that one because it was a popular one. I don't know. This may have been written by a brother. I'm not sure. But it was about, you know, the you all getting stopped on the highways and stuff, you know. Racial profiling. That's what it was about, racial profiling, right. And he was reading that. You know, I have this wonderful, of course, library here of different books, and he reads different ones at different times. You know, he'll look at it, and he'll, you know, read something and check it out. And he's 12, and so I'm so happy he's getting all of that in on his own, you know. I don't have to assign him books. He reads it himself. Now, at the same time he's reading that, he's reading Star Trek. Okay? So, you know, he's got a wide range of stuff that he's dealing with, and sometimes something will happen, and he'll say, guess what they said in here? And he'll tell me, and it'll be something really, such a big lie. We'll laugh about it and move on, you know. So he knows how to discern the truth, and, you know, that's important. Now, I have 4 children. This is just my youngest child. I taught all of my children this, and they're adults, and they all live that kind of life. You know, I taught all of them about the truth of what's out here and everything. I taught them all. I can remember when my children were small, we didn't have black books. Now, this would have been in the late 60s. We didn't have a lot of black children books. We didn't have hardly any, in fact. And so I would buy books and sit up all night and color the people in the books brown, so that when my children got the books the next day, all the people in there would look like them.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for years until we started, you know, having books that look like our people and our children, because I refuse to give my children a bunch of books with little white people in it.
Yeah, they're going to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. I wanted to ask, because I went to school. Like my attempted mother threw me into the Shark Tank, basically. Like I was you know, I had high aptitude with you know, with math and reading and everything. I was reading when I was 3. I've been doing art since I was 3. You know, riding a bike since I was 3. But I think like I kind of being with those white people in their school. There's some things I don't think she was really ready for, as far as like supporting me, as far as being black and being just submerged in this white culture. And I think I kind of when I was 11, I kind of went through maybe like a month or just I don't know. I just went through this very, very short period where I was, because kids, children would, in my neighborhood in the Bronx, would call me faggot. Excuse my French, but that's what they would say. They'd call me faggot. They'd call me white boy. And I think it might be a dated reference now, but I was wondering if that's still going around and if your son experienced that.
Yes, it's still going around. They call my son, yep, that's still going around. They call my son gay. That's the word they're using now. And I remember the first day they said that, though, he came home and asked me, Mom, what is gay? And then I had to explain that he hadn't heard that word, that particular word, and I had to explain it to him. And, yes, they did, because he's neat every day. And as I said, he's an honor student. He does his work, and he doesn't play football and a lot of those things. So, yeah, that still does go on. And that's so terrible for a young child like yourself and him to have to live through that. But that's what they put them through in there. And, yes, they still do that. And, it was just horrific. I went up to the school about it, you know, because they just kept, once one child does that, then the others will start it too. So they were all teasing him about that, you know, and it was just unmerciful how they were doing. So I had went up there to get that worked out and finally went and talked to their parents and everything. And I was trying to get him not to call names because they were. I say, you know, ignorant person can always insult an intelligent person, but an intelligent person can never insult an ignorant person. And so I was trying to teach him that route. And then his father told him, if he say that to you again, punch him in his face. And so then we used that system, and that kind of stopped it for, you know, there. We just started letting him do more fighting. And unfortunately, that's what we had to do. You know, he had to be the man in that because they would just keep on, and they were pressing him, and it was affecting him. Because there's little girls in the class, you know, and he didn't want them saying that about him in front of the girls and so forth. Now, as I said, this child is just 12 now. He's had to go through, you understand, all of that. And without a support system there, without somebody, an adult, who really knows what's going on and how to protect a child in that, it's very hard. And it does run a child away from black people. It makes a boy child in particular go get a white girl sometimes, because of the punishment that they go through with the black children in public school. Now, because of the other foundation I had put in my children, that's not an issue. But it does do that to some children. It runs them away from black people because they feel like they just treated them so bad.
Yeah, I think that kind of happened to me. But thanks to the programming of this program and just other materials that I've been pointed to, so I guess it's like you have to kind of become an activist for the correct stance. You can't just take the stance. You have to, like, just go whole hog, so to speak. I mean, just as far as like how you were talking about how you were addressing that so-called homosexual situation, and you had to just establish the context of how, gay isn't a race, what you do behind closed doors, that's not a nationality.
Right.
I just really appreciate what you contributed during tonight's program. So thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Okay.
Right on.
Person that called in, last 4 digits 7892. 7892. Your line should be open.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Ali. I have 2 questions for you. My first question is, the Cows has been on for about 4 years, and periodically we'll have callers and some guests that call in who are black, and they mention that black folks just aren't waking up fast enough. What advice do you have for black folks who kind of have this mentality that other black people aren't waking up fast enough, they're not paying enough attention, and that's part of the reason why we haven't gained our liberation yet?
I don't really have any advice for that. It's the truth. It's nothing, we can do. Some people are just stuck in their ways. We've always had those kind of old slaves that are just not going to change. The liberation that we need is one inside of our skull. We're not talking about no liberation on the street. We're talking about the one that has to take place in our brain. And until we can get that done, and until we can reach the mothers of our children. In America, if you get ready to go and adopt a dog, if you want to have a pet and be a dog daddy or a dog mommy, they give you a stack of papers to fill out. You have to explain, what are you going to feed the dog? How often are you going to feed the dog? Where is the dog going to live? When are you going to exercise the dog? What medications are you going to give to the dog? What are you going to do to the dog in an emergency? How are you going to teach a dog not to wet on the floor? They give you all these kind of hypotheticals, and you have to answer them. After you fill out those papers, then they decide if you can have a dog, what kind, or when, okay? But when you have a baby in America, a little person, they don't give you nothing but some Similac, some milk, and some diapers, and send you home. We don't have programs that used to exist where they teach mothers home economics and child rearing. Now, that's due to all of the women's liberation movement and the gay movements about everybody do their own thing, different strokes for different folks and all of that nonsense. There's no right, there's no wrong. Your right is right, your truth is your truth, and my truth is mine. Nah, and all of that's nonsense. And it has created a situation now where you have mothers who didn't even know how to have sex. They just had that instinct, who get pregnant by young men who also don't know any life skills, and then they have a baby. And then that woman, that mother, is left to try to figure out on her own, theoretically, how to raise the child. And that's what we see in the streets today, the result of that idea. So there's nothing we can do to tell anybody about any kind of mass liberation until we can reach the breeders in our communities about how to raise a child. An intelligent, decent, mannerable, contributing human being. We got all our values mixed up and what our priorities ought to be. That's way in the back of the list, talking about some liberation. We've been liberated. We're making decisions. Right now in Cincinnati, a brother on our city council has some kind of silly campaign all over the city and all over the radio. He got bulletin boards up saying, we deserve fresh fruit and vegetables too. We deserve stores in our communities too. Treat us right. We deserve food. Who the hell are we telling we deserve food to? The food god? What he's saying is many of the white people and the Asians have closed stores in our communities and left. They got tired of getting robbed, got tired of not selling the stuff, and so they moved and left. And so now the black people are begging them to come back. Instead of having a campaign, who are the black people that want to go into the grocery business? Who wants to open a store? Let's have a program where we teach people merchandising of how to sell, food, so that we can put our own stores in our communities. We out here begging the white people to come back and bring your store back and open it because we deserve to eat. That's the kind of silliness we going. So that don't have nothing to do with no liberation. We liberated enough to open any kind of business we want to. Certainly one concerning food. So as I said, again, we got our priorities mixed up. It ain't about hipping nobody. Maybe the person that don't think we ought to deal with blackness is the person that know how to run a grocery store. We need the food. So maybe we ought to try to appeal to that group and see if they want to come into our communities and open stores instead of all the Asians and the Latinos and the white people coming in, taking our money, and leaving our community. We got our priorities mixed up about what it takes to survive. We ain't going to have no liberation. We've been liberated. And we just haven't done anything with it.
Couldn't agree more. My second question, you mentioned that your father had a white father and a black mother, so your grandfather was a white man. I wanted to know, what are your thoughts with the kind of the new push, the media push with black females and white males, such as Scandal with Kerry Washington or this new show, Deception with Megan Good, Cowbell. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, white men have always had access to black women. The only thing new is black men having access to white women. But they've always had access to us, as far back as any history has been written of us in this country. Okay? And so that's not new. And it is an idea that they have been pushing onto black women as a result of locking up, killing, giving aids to so many of our black men. And so they have created this mythical idea that there's a shortage of black men, and so therefore black women should look outside of our race, the man God gave us, and go look to some other people who look like they former slave masters and go to bed and sleep with them and act like they volunteering to, okay? That's not a new idea. And white men have always had black women in secret. Now it's more public, as I said, and it's out, and this is just, what everybody's doing. But I don't think it's a good idea. Once again, I think it's giving a wrong idea to our children. It is teaching us to hate each other and that we are not good enough for each other. We used to meet brothers that we thought we cared about. We fell in love with them, or we, got together or whatever. Well, see, now that's different. Now, we have been given a new set of guidelines by white America, and those guidelines are he got to have good credit, he got to have a car, he got to have this, he got to have that. All of the things that white people deny him, they have told us that if he don't have that, then you should reject him. So it's a real catch-22, a trick bag that they've got our women in to pull us more away from you and to go to somebody else who has already got a alternative plan to destroy our nation. So it's a shame that black women have become so desperate that they are turning to white men under the guise that he's just a man and a man is just a man, and it's not true. It simply is not true. And there is no black woman alive that ever had a black man who would rather have a white man crawling all over her. There's no such person. That's a lie, something they have made up because they want to achieve something, they want the notoriety, or they want to be some kind of exhibitionist and prove that, they can be with somebody else. They're in complete denial of self. So I really don't have good ideas about that. I'm the wrong person to ask about that because I do not like it, and I think that it's just another trick, the illusion of inclusion, and to try to pretend that we have such equality now that race does not matter when dating and marrying, and nothing could be further from the truth.
Great answer. That's all for now. Thank you.
Right on. Person that dialed in, last four digits 5065. There was something wrong with the player, but it should be working now. The folks of Black Talk Radio player, or if you're listening online streaming, should be good to go. I can hear it playing in the background. But the person who dialed in, last 4 digits, 5065. 5065. Your line should be open.
Hello. Greetings, everyone. I hope everybody's having a good evening. I really enjoyed Dr. Ali listening to you. I listened to you in college. And when that book came out, I was in college. And
okay.
Well, I mean, and then I was looking at you on Donahue, between classes or whatever. And
yes, ma'am.
I got 2 questions for you. Earlier, you were talking about like black female relationships and everything, and you were saying like. The black male, has, tongue-tied right now. Anyway, you were saying how, what I want to ask is, with the black female guy to the black male, do you have, not regrets, but, do you have anything else you want to interject, into that? If you had it to write over again, would it be different? Or would it be the same, or do you have more?
Well,
earlier you were saying about independence and stuff, and
let me answer that. Let me answer that, sister. Of course, that was 20 years ago. The earth is spinning. Things are constantly changing, and I've grown and I've learned a vast deal more in over 20 years, just like you have. And so, yes, I would add more into it. And no, I don't have any regrets. And as I said, that book today is like child's play, considering what's really going on now between black men and black women and how we as black women are behaving. That book was a precursor to the real truth, which is us today. So what I'm trying to do, as I said, is come out with a hardcover edition this spring, which will probably be like in May. And when I come out with that, I'll be on tour again, and I will add some things into the back of it to bring us up to date to where we are now. But no, ma'am, I don't have any regrets about that. I am so glad, as I said, not only was it a book about the truth, about us for a change, but it also opened up an entire new industry of writing black books for black people, which we never had. Now everybody that can sign their name write a book. Well, we used to not have that. And so, that is important. My book was required reading in over 50 colleges and universities. That's from Harvard, Morehouse, Spell, you name the school. They used my book, okay, in different black history classes, in social work classes, and all types of, modern, contemporary, art classes. And so this was an important thing that I did. And it will grow in more importance as the years go by, especially after I die. You know how we love a dead hero. So, it will really, be them. But, no, I don't have any regrets about that. I think it was that was my greatest work.
I think so, too. Even still.
Thank you, sister.
I think so, too. I didn't mean it like regrets. I meant well, I saw you on Donahue. I mean, well, not standoffish, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, you had a independent. It's funny now, but I mean, it was kind of like an independent. In other words, we were trying to take on the independent black woman. You know what I'm saying, quote unquote. Type.
Yeah, tell me this
stance or whatever, But now, I realize, now that I'm older, I'm 40, and I realize how much time I wasted and how much, and that's my fault. I'm not blaming it on you, but I'm just saying, how much time I wasted on, and then I see even Mexicans come over here, and they have a tight family structure, and, the Indians, they come here, and they, have a tight family structure. And just blacks always seem to be lacking.
Tell me this. Yeah, tell me this. Before you saw me on Donahue's show, had you ever seen a black woman on television looking like me, dressing like me?
No.
Right. So see how important that was? important that was.
Yeah, I'm not diminishing your role one bit. I mean, you are important. You're important. You know, your book is important. All of your books are important. Because we need, you know, as many, you know, viewpoints, you know, as we can get on counter racism and, you know, knowing the truth and what's going on out here.
Well, thank you very much. You're right. You have grew up under my influence, and I hope you get a copy of the hardback. All right?
Yes, I will. And I got another question. My other question was, now earlier you was talking about the school board meeting and how cameras were present. Do you have any copies of that? Like when you went to the school board with the pamphlet, that being straight is okay. Yeah. It's okay to be straight.
Yeah. No, I don't have that now. I think about it. I wish I had my own camera person there, but I didn't know that they were all going to turn out like that. Yeah. And I probably got a copy of that brochure somewhere in my file, but I don't know. But I was just really explaining how it works out here when you go up against those people. And every parent in every school should have a campaign like that where they let the children know that being straight is okay. Being heterosexual is all right. You don't have to give in to those other ideas because nobody is representing those children. Everything is about the gays now. Gus?
Oh, I'm here. Is that?
Oh, okay, all
right. She said she had her two. Did that took care of your questions? Puff, that took care of your questions? We might have lost her.
I think she's gone. I think it did. I think I told her, yeah.
Right on. A co-author of The Interracial Con Game, The Beauty Con Game, many other texts. Pam, your line should be open. Good to hear from you, Pam.
Good evening, Dr. Ali, Gus, and Justice, and the rest of the listeners. I didn't tune in at the beginning. I apologize for that, but I did. Maybe you covered this, but I was wondering, what do you see in the future for Black people based on the way that the country appears to be going? And
did he say that you helped? Did he say that you helped wrote the Interracial Con Game?
Yes, he did. Uh-huh.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. I got your book.
Oh, do you? Wow, that's an honor. Thank you.
I have all three of them. I have,
really?
It's 2 or 3 of them sent. I have all of them.
Wow. You know what? I would love if you ever get the time to, critique it. Tell us. Just to hear your opinion would be great. Because I'm sure
they were wonderful. That's why I got them. Those books are great. Oh, I love them. That's why I have them. I got one, and I got the other 2. And they are just wonderful. And they're on my library shelf, too. They're included in my special books because, we need Black people that can really look at that like that and discuss it like that and be honest with it like that. We have now the market has been taken over by true romance. We got a lot of nonsense out there about sex, and that's the last thing Black people need to read about. That's the only thing they know how to do. But we have a lot of that nonsense out there now instead of serious books like the ones that you have and that I have, So I'm real happy to talk to you, too. I didn't know any of those people because y'all all write under different names,
Yeah, under the pseudonym. I have your books on my shelf as well.
Okay.
I think I have either 2 or 3 of your books. Yeah.
All right. Okay. That's good. That's good. But in regard to what I see for the future, I see just desperation and frustration. More of our women are going to be pretending that they are men, which is nature's way. One of them are trying to compensate for not having a man, not being around one, and not having one to love them. And I think more of our men, as a result of having the emotional mechanisms of women and being taught so hard against themselves their whole lives, I think that we're going to have more of our men who are going to be pretending that they're women. And I think that, nature has never adjusted its methods because of human ideas. And I think that that's going to affect everything from birth rates to health care and schools and laws and all kinds of things. And I think that the desperation for food And women not having protection of a man is going to create a different kind of crime situation against women and children. And I think that's going to be coming down the pike. And I think that it's going to be just really what we've just been looking at, rich and the poor. And that they are going to have to come up with more ways to get rid of those who are non-contributing citizens and who are poor. Now, one of the ways they've come up with is to have the guaranteed numbers in prisons. And they're using that to, at least the people who they figure are non-contributing, they can just lock them up and make money off of them that way while still giving them 3 hots and a cot, so to speak. And I think that we're going to see more and more of that. And I think that credit is going to be used to destroy more and more people who are trying to succeed out here in the world. Bad credit. They're going to use that more. See, that's what we should have been asking for. Instead of just jumping to reparations all the time, which ain't none of us are going to see in that way, I think we should have been asking for a credit moratorium. That would have been the thing for black people to have, is just erase everybody that's over a certain age, bad credit, let them start over. Since there's no real thing such as debt anyway, according to their own laws, but we don't know anything about that part. But we need a credit moratorium because now that they're using that as the new weapon, of course, who suffers the most? We do. We've been tricked, so I think that that's also going to happen in the future. So things are not looking well, not just for us, but for America.
If you had to suggest, what do you think is the most important thing we could be doing right now as black people collectively?
I think we should be figuring out how to feed ourselves, sister. Every nationality of people in this country, look at it. White people have all kinds of shipping centers set up to bring in food. They bring it in bales, freighters, and everything. The Asians have their own food line system of bringing in food. So do the Latinos. Who is the one nationality in America that don't have a system to get food and who is relying on everybody else? Who are they?
Us.
Right. That's a real priority. As I said, we got our priorities just so mixed up. We just on so much political nonsense and everything. That's a real priority, how to eat. That puts us at the complete mercy of the whites, the Asians, and the Latinos because they have a food source. We don't. We think that that's something to be ashamed of, farming, canning, But what if those people decide not to give us any food and just to give their own people food? We don't have a plan for that. We think we can take it. No, we can't because they have a system set up for that. They'll kill us. We don't want to ever look at those kind of things. But as food stamps are shortened all over this country because the budgets are running out, people are going to be hungry for food.
Right.
And we don't have a food system. We don't have food warehouses. All of those people do. We don't have anything like that set up to eat. And that puts us in a very precarious position as the economy goes down further and further. It's food, clothing, and shelter. The thing that's at the top of the list we don't have. And that's what people should be talking about in these churches and organizations and frats and all of these sorors and all this stuff. They ought to be talking about how can we have food? Not just a food place where you give away food that we have got from the white people and the Asians and the Latinos. No, a food source like they have. We ought to be studying that agriculturally, how to get food in this country. Most of the food that's here wasn't grown here. We need people to study that and find out how do they get food? Where does it come from? How much does it cost? How to get it in here? How can we control some of that? We don't control no food. That's more important than real estate, is food.
Right.
So that's what I think we should be doing. But, of course, ain't nobody going to do that because that sounds too square. That's corny. People just don't want to deal with that.
And it's hard.
Until that day comes.
it's hard work too.
Yes.
Rewarding, but it's hard work.
Yeah. Well, somebody else is doing, and it can't get no more rewarding than a person having to watch their baby hungry.
Right.
So I agree. But somebody got to do that work, and somebody got to be able to have control of it and eat it. So that's what, I think we should be doing. We should be still trying to do something for ourselves other than talk.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm going to keep listening.
You're welcome, sister. I'm so happy to meet you. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, same here.
Okay.
Right on. Always good to hear from Pam. The person, again, the people that were struggling, the player, it's been working since last time I mentioned it. You should be good if you just want to listen online. If you want to call in, that's fine too, but the player, for the folks listening online.
Well, what time is it? Gus, what time is it?
I have 7:10 p.m. I guess for you that's 10 minutes after 10.
Yeah, I think we passed our time, aren't we?
We are over. Do you need? There are some other folks that had calls, but if you need to go, that's cool in the game. We did our 2 hours.
Well, we'll do 10 more minutes. You want to do 10 more minutes, and then I gotta go.
That will work. The person that called in from a blocked number. It's taking me a minute to find the person's line. I'm not seeing the caller who dialed in from a blocked number. I want to try and get people the order that they came in. That would be correct, but I'm not seeing you pop up in the line here. I'll get the second to last person, so that way I'm not wasting time. This should be Miss Garnes. Your line should be open. Did you have a question for Miss Dr. Ali? Your line should be open. Lashes.
Yes, I do. Quick question, ma'am. Thank you for being here. What type of information do you share with your children so they will not bring home any potential partner, romantic partners, that's not black?
I just teach. She must not have been listening. I'm sorry. I just give them the basics. I teach them who they are from a very young age, who the enemy is, who they look like. They may not appear to be the enemy now, but this is what they look like. This is their great-great-grandchildren, and so we're not going to do that. And I teach them to love their own self and kind and show them who God made for them and how great our men are, being the first man created on the earth, and our illustrious history of what we have done and how you should always be proud of yourself. And the main thing I teach them is that love is not a disease. You don't catch love, all that nonsense about you can't help but who you love if you fall in love. That's a lie. Love is not a disease. You don't catch love. You decide who you're going to love. And so I taught them to decide to love self. You love somebody that look like you. That's who you love. You don't look outside of this group. Okay? Nature made male and female of everything. So, the lion don't mate with the tiger. It don't work that way. The turtle don't mate with the duck. They're all animals, Just like we say, but we're human. That doesn't mean we're more intelligent. Mm-hmm. And so I teach them to stay with your own kind. That's what I teach them. And as I said, the main thing, and that's what all of us need to learn, is that love is not a disease. You don't catch love. Love is a decision. You be around somebody, you decide you like what they do, how they look or whatever, and so you say, I love you. I think I love you. It ain't nothing you catch that, I can't help it. I just love them. That's a lie. You can't help it. Just like we decide to love somebody, we can decide we don't love them. And so that's what I teach my children.
Thank you. I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Person that called in from a blocked number. Did you have a question for Dr. Ali? Your line should be open.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Ali. I just wanted to ask you about your book. I think it's the one, the Black Man's Guide to the Black Woman. I think I remember when that book came out. I've never read it. But I remember when it came out, and in Essence magazine, it received a lot of backlash from black women that saying that you were saying that black women never wash their hair and they keep dirty houses and black men shouldn't be with them because of that. I just want to know how you felt.
No, I didn't say that. You should have read it. You should have read it, and then you would know. That's not what I said.
At that time, I wasn't able to get it. I really tried to get it,
okay.
and I called different bookstores, and they all told me it was out of print at that time. But now that it is,
it has only been out of print for about the last 5 or 6 years because I'm redoing, as I said, something I'm going to come out with this year. And so when it comes out this year, I want you to try to get a copy of it. I'll be on tour, and you'll hear something on the papers or something so that you can get that and really read that. I talked about many of us don't clean our houses, but we go out dressed sharp. That's what I said. I said many of us. I didn't say all of us. Nobody can speak in those kind of absolutes. I didn't say 100% of us. If those charges fit the woman, then she need to clean that up. But it didn't have to go for everyone. But that does exist. You do agree that exists, right?
Yeah, I do agree. I have been to lots of black females' houses.
Yeah. And I said, what I said was that many times, at that time, see, when people wore dreads, it had a different type of meaning than now. Now it's just a hairstyle. It don't mean nothing, okay? But at that time, 20 years ago, people who many times, men and women who wore their hair in dreads, they thought they were either getting with the Rastafarians or some other type of idea, African idea, or bush people or something, that they thought that this was a way to express that. It's always easier for us to change our clothing or our hairstyles than to change our mind, see? So you can always put on a costume and try to say this is what I stand for and not change your behavior. In fact, most of the brothers I knew back then that had dreads had a white woman. So I knew it had stopped meaning anything at that time. But what I said is that many times people that had that type of hairstyle did not take care of their hair properly, and that it was easier to just have dreads than to have to take care of your hair. And I also said that I had a friend that had some dreads, and I had taken them to a laboratory to have the inside of the dread examined, and they found mites. Well, people got angry about that, but that was the truth. Okay? Now, of course, because that idea is just a cosmetic hairstyle, they have learned how to take care of that hair, how to condition it, and how to dry it and wash it and deal with it so that we probably don't have those problems now, but we did then. Yeah. And because I came with those kind of truths, people got angry about it.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarity.
Okay. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Clearing that up.
Okay.
The person that dialed in, I think this is Jar Talk on a Skype line. Jar Talk on a Skype line. Did you have a question for Dr. Ali? Your line should be open.
Good evening, Dr. Ali. You answered my question already, but I just wanted to ask you another one about concerning food. I mean, what do you think about aquaponics?
About what?
Aquaponics. Are you familiar with that?
What is that, brother? What is that?
Well, in short, it was when they use fish to support plants for it to grow food, and plant life supports fish. That's something that's coming up right now. Many people are doing that, and you can do this indoors, where you can grow your own organic food and stuff like that. I was thinking about.
Well, I think that's a great idea. We better learn how to grow some stuff. I tell people you better learn how to grow it in your backyard and on your windowsill or something, because that may be the only food you have one day. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, you can take like even a small fish bowl and start out doing something like that. I mean, they're doing testing. I was thinking of doing something like that, because there's a lot of abandoned buildings in the urban neighborhoods, and you can take like a huge building instead of like going to buying farmland. You can use a building and grow all sorts of types of food with fish and plant life.
That's right. I agree. People have been growing marijuana in their house for years, so I know that you can grow other stuff if you can do that. So yeah, I'm with that. I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that since you're talking about that we should learn to grow food, that's just an idea that anyone can do.
Yes,
might consider, since if we're living in the inner cities, there's a lot of abandoned buildings there, and they can use those buildings and turn them around to grow food in.
Absolutely. I agree 100%, brother. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Take care. Have a nice evening, man.
This should be our last caller before our 10 minutes runs out.
Okay.
6151. Think our caller down in Alabama. Did you have a final question for Dr. Ali? 61, last four digits, 6151. Did you have a question for Dr. Ali? I don't know if you muted your line, maybe.
Yeah, I'm right here, but I'm in a place of work environment, so I really can't speak like that. But I just like to say it's an honor listening to her, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
Right on. We will call that a wrap. We will definitely see if we can get you back on the program, because there were quite a few other folks who had questions. We just ran out of time, but we'll see if we can get you back on the program. If you're going to be promoting your book when you get the hard copies out.
Yes, I will let you know in the spring. Yes, sir. In the spring, I will certainly do that so we can get down to the real business, okay, in the black man's guide. But listen, I enjoyed this, Gus. I thank you so much for inviting me on, and I hope that I gave out some pertinent information that can help people in their lives today. Like I said, we talk a lot of illusion stuff. We talk a lot of lofty ideas and everything, but we need information that help us survive right now, help us to get along, help us to make progress. We need it for today. You know, this is what we have to concentrate on. How do we get through the night? And so I hope that somebody heard something that will help them go a little farther, help them with their children, in their relationship, in their home, because that's what I teach about, domestic issues. That's what I teach.
Again, check out, she's in the Hidden Colors documentary with Tariq Nasheed, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and lots of other folks. Great information with Hidden Colors. Pleasure to have her on the broadcast this evening. Dr. Shahrazad Ali, we will look forward to springtime 2013, having her back on the program to continue the dialogue.
All right, brother.
Take great care of yourself and keep up the outstanding work that you are doing.
You too, brother.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Peace.
We will be in touch soon. Context of White Supremacy. We will do a quick commercial break since there are a lot of people on the line. I don't know if I want to hang out because it's quite a few folks, and some people I know they didn't get to ask their questions. We will definitely try to get her back on, so the folks that were not able to get a question in, they'll get an opportunity to get their question in. She said she'd be down to come back and speak with us again, so my apologies to the folks who were not able to get a question in. We will try to compensate for that in the future. I did want to take a quick commercial break, but before I did that, the caller, last four digits 7076. Are you still with us? Your line should be open. The caller 7076. Are you still with us?
Yeah.
Okay. You talked before about having, I guess you found out that you had a black father and that you've been able to... Oh, what was it again?
I've always knew I had a black... I had my biracial father and my white mother, but when my parents divorced, my mother basically told me that, that I was white. And I was raised by my grandparents, because she didn't even raise me. Wow. And they were extremely racist. Like, my grandfather was a proud member of the Ku Klux Klan.
Wow. That is so fascinating. I think it would be grand. I was already thinking this, but quite a few listeners, I think they were in the same vein. If you would be interested, it might be constructive if you'd be willing to come on the program to chat more about it, to be a guest. I think it would be helpful to hear more about, because you were saying some of the things that you've had to do since you're accepted as a white person, some of the ways that you've had to mistreat other black people, I think you touched on a little bit, and just some of your observations, having so many white people in your family and what you've observed, your understanding of how white people function and what they think about black people. I think that would be very constructive for black people to hear. Would you be interested in coming on the program in the future?
Sure.
Okay. Would it be, I guess, is it acceptable, because I can see your number on the switchboard, would it be okay for me to give you a ring once the program concludes and we can maybe hash out a date and time to work that out?
Sure.
Outstanding. Hoorah, hoorah. There should be many happy listeners, because they were writing in during the program saying, wow, that is so fascinating. That would be grand to hear more. So yeah, we'll see if we can make that happen. You all have something to look forward to. Cool. We will take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back. Again, I'm not going to hang out today because there's a lot of folks on the line, and I do know some people didn't get an opportunity to ask a question, and that is regrettable. But hopefully we'll get Dr. Ali back with us soon, and you all can compensate, get your questions in that you weren't able to ask today. Quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Context of White Supremacy.
RacismDaily.com, your number one source for global news reports on race, racism, and overt actions of white supremacy. From Asia to the Americas, to Europe, to Australia, to Africa, racism is not a thing of the past, it is our current reality. Be informed, be globally informed. You should be the first to know. RacismDaily.com, RacismDaily.com, RacismDaily.com.
Is racism hurting you? On issues of race, are you unable to speak, think, and act with clarity and confidence? Are you tired of laughing when nothing is funny, smiling when you are not happy, agreeing when you really disagree? At counterracism.com, you can learn specific strategies and techniques to counter the behaviors of the people who practice racism in all areas of activity, using words correctly, following counter-racist logic, even counter-racist science projects designed to reveal what racism is, how it works, and how to counter it. The open source code writing format allows you to pick and choose from a variety of counter-racist suggestions so you can produce the code that works for you. Stop by counterracism.com today and help replace racism with justice.
That's counter-racism.com.
Do you need a one-stop shop for all of your multimedia needs? Triumphant Multimedia is a skilled team of professionals with a passion for great marketing and chic design. Our specialties include consulting, brand development, copywriting, and creative graphic design that's second to none. We also offer photography, photo retouching, videography, and video editing. At Triumphant Multimedia, our goal is to provide highly effective creative solutions built to suit any individual need or budget. Give us a call at 678-732-8067 or check us out online at TRIMultimedia.com.
Hi everyone, welcome. This is Justice with the Cows Radio program. If you want to learn about, understand, and counter racism, white supremacy, be sure not to miss a Cows episode. We keep them jammed, packed with constructive information to sharpen your use of words to help eliminate the system of racism, white supremacy, ASAP. Also, to be able to invest in my counter-racist efforts, co-hosting the Cows Radio programs, please visit my blog, justdojustice.blogspot.com.
You're just saying just buckets and buckets of words.
I got an uncle real crazy. My Uncle B, 55 years old, hates white people, married to a white lady. And he sit around going, these crackers ain't shit, except for Susan. He tried to explain the whole thing to me one day, say, yeah, I got a white wife, I love her, she love me, that's all that matter. But I tell you this, if the revolution ever come, I'll kill her first, just to show these crackers I mean business. Motherfucking cracker ass, motherfucking cracker, shit cracker motherfucker. Hey, hi honey. Motherfucking cracker, I'll kill my cracker kids too.
Context of White Supremacy. I think the book that was being referenced, Driving While Black, I haven't read this, so I could be incorrect, but I think the book that they were talking about, based on what the caller touched on and what Dr. Ali was saying, I think it's Driving While Black, What to Do If You Are a Victim of Racial Profiling, and it's by Kenneth Meeks. The author again is Kenneth Meeks, and the last name is M as in mighty, E-E-K-S. Kenneth Meeks. Driving While Black, What to Do If You Are a Victim of Racial Profiling. That word victim, again, this came out in 2000, so I'm pretty sure this is what it is. I see other books that are on the same line, but none of them have Driving While Black in the title, so I'd be willing to bet a few nickels that that's the book that they're talking about. If anybody is interested, they want to check that out. I think the other book that she mentioned was Without Sanctuary by James Allen. I would also highly encourage folks to get that book. Great, has lots of photographs in it, very gruesome. Also, if you have the ability, they have a traveling museum that goes with that book. That is also phenomenal. I had the pleasure when I lived, I think when I first moved to Atlanta, that exhibit was at the King Center, and that was easily the best, most powerful experience that I've had going to the King Center in Atlanta. I've been many times, and that Without Sanctuary exhibit was just, it was something to see. So I would encourage, keep an eye out. I don't know if they're still doing it, but I know it was going around the country for a while. The Without Sanctuary exhibit, where they had a lot of the images blown up and additional photographs that weren't in the book, and some of the letters from white people when they would go out and terrorize and lynch, murder black people, and write postcards about it to their relatives and talk about what fun they had and all that. I would definitely encourage that, and to take your children, just to really drive that point home about what it means to be a white person and what we mean when we say racism, white supremacy, the problem is white people. More literature for your libraries if you need some reading material. Anywho, we should be back during the week. Not tomorrow, thankfully. We'll take a day off to rest. Just check the program page. We'll update Black Talk Radio and all the other sites when the other programs get scheduled for this week. So just stay tuned. I will definitely update Facebook and all of that once we have the schedule laid out for this week. If nothing else, you definitely know we'll be doing the book study session this Friday, segment number 2 on Warriors Don't Cry, Melba Patillo Beals. Just got started, so if you have missed out on that one, you have not missed much, because we've only done one session this past Friday. Great material. That's another book, another one that you can share with younger children. Warriors Don't Cry, phenomenal. And the caller, she dialed in today as well. She mentioned the book Hazel and Elizabeth. I think I got the title right. But I was saying that I downloaded the hard copy of the book. I do have that, but I mentioned, I think, on the program that I did not have the audiobook. I mentioned that, and within a day, someone mailed me the audiobook. So now I do have that. So we can even double down and do Warriors Don't Cry and follow that with Hazel and Elizabeth if folks are interested. I haven't read that one yet, so I don't know if, what it covers, but based on the people who dialed in and talked about that book already, might be constructive to double down. I think I inverted the title. It's Elizabeth and Hazel, 2 Women of Little Rock. That's the title. Elizabeth and Hazel, 2 Women of Little Rock. And yeah, we'll see. Perhaps down the road we can do the audiobook to that as well. Anywho, hope everyone got something constructive out of the broadcast. Constructive investment of your Sunday evening tuning into the program. If it was not constructive, I hope you did not hang out and waste 2.5 hours of your time, because we certainly have a lot of problems and things that need to be attended to under racism, white supremacy. Thanks everybody for tuning into the broadcast. The caller who talked about being able to be accepted as a white person, I will give you a ring. We will see if we can set that program up, so stay tuned. Thanks again. It was grand to hear from everybody. Pammy, always good to hear from you as well. We will be back soon. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Creator, give us the strength to just remain patient with ourselves and other victims of racism, white supremacy. We have many, many problems, but they can be solved. Make sure that we do not lose faith, do not lose the belief that all of our problems can be solved, and many of them solved in short order. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice as soon as possible. Cows, signing out.
I'm a victim, brother.
You're a victim.
Yeah. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Even my conditioning has been conditioned.